Good morning, and thank you all for joining me again for this second installment of the psychoeducation classes here at Tyner Elementary. My name is Sierra Gibson. I'm a CFI here with Cumberland River Behavioral, and I started these classes as a way to interact with parents and kind of help develop that multidimensional type of therapy that we want to see. And all that means is that if I'm giving these coping skills to your kids, I want to make sure that the teachers are involved. I want to make sure that the parents are involved and anyone else who is associating it with them in extracurriculars or anything like that has the opportunity to learn these same coping skills so that we can encourage the child to practice these things in every situation that they're in. This has also been proven to be the best type of therapy to see the most growth in, is because when we set the expectations for one environment, we want to make sure that it's continued everywhere they go so that they know the expectations. So this month we're talking about the anxiety monster, and a lot of my kids thought that was a very funny name for this when I handed out the flyers. And I can't take all the credit for it because there's a very good book called How to Tame My Anxiety Monster. And before I go into too much detail about anxiety in general, I want to let you all listen to this read along. You all can come back to this at the end, let your kids listen to it. This is a very good resource to kind of start the conversation talking about anxiety.
My Anxiety Monster, written and illustrated by Melanie Hawkins. Do you want to know a secret? There's a monster that likes to visit me that only I can see. Sometimes he likes to visit me when I'm scared or worried, or sometimes when I'm happy or just playing. I don't always like when he visits me. Sometimes he feels big and scary. Sometimes he makes me feel tired and it's hard to concentrate. Sometimes it is hard to sleep. I feel restless when he's around and often feel angry. Sometimes my heart beats faster and I might start shaking, sweating, or my tummy may hurt. I might also feel dizzy too, like I can't breathe. I don't like this at all. I decided to talk to my parents about it. I thought they wouldn't believe me. But they did. Mom has a monster that visits her too. Her monster is just like mine. She told me some things about her monster. Our monsters are very similar. He doesn't always know how to behave, just like a new puppy. I just need to learn to train him. When I talk about my monster to someone else that understands, it feels good. There are some tricks that I can teach him so that he will learn how to behave. Do you want to know my monster's name? His name is Anxiety. Giving him a name makes him not quite so scary. It's like naming a new pet. Learning more about him helps me understand him and why he likes to visit me so much. I am brave and strong and can train him even when he might seem big or scary. I do feel brave. Here are some things I can do to train my monster. When I get outside to play, go on a walk, or exercise, it can give me special super boosters called endorphins. It makes him a happy monster that can be helpful to me with sports or other activities. When I do yoga, breathe deeply, and clear my mind from worries, it can help him shrink. That's kind of neat. When I do art, it calms me and can help me see that he's not so big and not quite so scary. I don't think he looks so scary now. When my monster gets a little too big and wild, having a plan helps me stay in control. He likes to be helpful, but sometimes he gets a little too big and wild. He doesn't always know how to behave. Planning what to do if he acts up can help me tame him. It's helpful to know that lots of people have an anxiety monster that likes to visit them too. My aunt, my neighbor, and my friend. When he is really bothering me, remembering my 5 senses helps to keep me in control. I can look at something that makes me happy. I can smell something nice. I can touch something that has texture. Something that makes me feel peaceful. I can taste something delicious. All of these tricks take my focus off of my monster, which can calm him down. If I need a little extra help learning how to train him, there are special doctors or counselors that can help me. My monster likes to visit me because I have a very big, kind, caring heart that feels emotions very deeply, and that is a really good thing. He really does want me to feel all of my special feelings without being afraid. He can be really helpful when I'm playing sports or if I have to talk in front of the class. He can even be helpful if I have a big test to study for. He loves to do scary fun things with me, like go for a ride on a roller coaster. I am stronger than my monster. Even with him around, I can still do all of the things I need to do. I don't think he'll be a problem anymore. But if he is, I know how to tame my anxiety monster. The end. What do you imagine your anxiety monster looks like?
All right, so that's just a really good example of some of the skills that you can use to start talking about anxiety and giving the kids something that they can relate to. So let's jump right into it. So, what is anxiety? There are several things that can cause anxiety. The main thing that we see, and I'm going to have to slow down when I say this, is we are being overactive in our fight, flight, or freeze logical thinking. And so there's another little video here that kind of explains a little bit more about that fight, flight, or freeze. All right.
You know that scared or nervous feeling you get when you have to do something you're not sure you can do? Or go somewhere you've never been before? That feeling is called anxiety. And it can feel a bit different for each person. It usually doesn't feel very nice. Maybe your palms get sweaty, or your body tenses up, or maybe you get a tummy ache. Maybe you've heard of anxiety, or maybe you haven't, but you've definitely felt it before. Because everyone feels it sometimes. It's normal. You want to know something really weird about anxiety? It's actually trying to help you. It's true. All those uncomfortable feelings, those happen because your brain thinks you're in danger and it wants to protect you. When our muscles tense up and we sweat, it gets us ready to do a lot of exercise, which is helpful if you need to jump out of the way of a runaway train or Breath of a Wolverine. Sometimes our minds go blank and we feel like we can't move or talk. That would be great if we needed to hide. Instead, we just feel stuck. When your brain does this, it's called fight, flight, or freeze. The problem is, sometimes your brain gets confused and it can't tell the difference between a charging moose and, say, going to a new school. Both things can be scary and cause anxiety, but there aren't any dangerous wild animals at a new school, hopefully. Understanding where anxiety comes from is the first step in learning to deal with it. So the next time you're in one of those tough situations and you start to feel those feelings, like butterflies in your stomach or sweaty palms, or it gets hard to talk or move, remember, there's nothing wrong with your body. You're just having normal feelings of anxiety, and they're actually trying to help, even if they're not very good at it sometimes.
All right. So another reason that we might see anxiety in our clients is it could be because of genetics. So a child who has a family member with an anxiety disorder is more likely to have one also. They can also inherit genes that make them more prone to the anxious feelings. It could be because of brain chemistry. So, like we just said, the genes help direct the way the brain chemicals function. So, if a specific brain chemical is in short supply or not working well, it can also cause anxiety. It could also be because of life situations. So, during life, we experience multiple events. And if we experience some that are continuously stressful, or if we don't have the coping skills that we need, it can also impact us to feel anxiety. Could also be a learned behavior. So if you grew up in a home where others were very fearful or very anxious, um, you can also kind of unconsciously teach the child to be anxious. Anxiety disorders are, as we know, an extreme fear or worry and cause changes in a child's sleep, behavior, eating, or mood. Anxiety is one of the most common mental health concerns for children and adults, and it affects around 20% of children and adolescents over their lifespan. So, when we talk about anxiety, one of the main key points to talk about is stress. So, when we say stress, a lot of times it also kind of follows up with a very negative connotation. So, we think stress is always a bad thing, but there's also good stress. So, stress can be helpful or it can be harmful depending on the situation. So, stress can be helpful in small amounts when kids have the right support. Stress can be an extra little boost to them. It can help kids to rise to challenges, it can help them to push toward goals, focus their efforts, and meet deadlines. This kind of positive stress allows kids to build their inner strengths and skills that we call resilience. Stress can be harmful when it is too intense, when it's very prolonged, or when it's very sudden, and it can overwhelm a child's ability to cope. So, stress can be harmful when kids don't have a break from the stress or when they lack the support or the coping skills they need to deal with it. Over time, too much stress can affect kids' mental and physical health. As a parent, you can't prevent your child from feeling stress. I know a lot of times as parents, you just want to coddle them and shield them from everything negative in the world. And while that is a great intention, we also know that it's not something we can feasibly do. But we can help the kids and teens to cope. So you can help them use positive stress to go for goals, to adapt to changes, to face challenges, and gain confidence. You can give them extra support and stability when they go through stressful life events. And you can protect them from the harmful effects of too much stress, like chronic stress or traumatic stress, by giving them a little bit of a break. And even if you're just someone there who's a listening ear for when they do want to talk. So, like we said, positive stress is the brief stress that kids feel when they face a challenge. It can prompt them to prepare and focus. It can motivate them to go toward their goals and try new things. And they might also feel positive stress before a test, a big game, or a recital. And with the positive stress, once they face that challenge, then the stress is over. So positive stress gives kids the chance to learn and grow. So, for example, if we're trying to get the kids to school on time, get their shoes on, gather their things, head for the bus, and we're in a rush and we don't know how to use that positive stress with the kids. So it can mean a hectic race to the bus that leaves both the parents and the kids feeling very upset. So we want to give coping skills that teach kids to have routines and to teach them that there are things that we can do to prepare us for upcoming challenges. So, for example, for this, we may have them lay out their clothes the night before and have everything ready in the correct spots. We may give them 15 minutes before they get out the door to kind of calm back down, to relax, and let them have that extra time to just refocus. So, when it comes to handling that morning school prep, it's tempting to step in and get everything ready for your child, but that won't help them learn how to use that positive stress. This is a very good teaching moment. So, instead of laying out their clothes for them and putting everything where they go, you can actually help talk them through that. So, give them an option where you can. So, maybe they get to pick out their clothes, but they have to lay them on the bed for you to approve the night before. And they need to pack their own bag. But maybe you can stand there and say, hey, do you have everything that you need? Did you get all your homework done? And these are kind of supervisor roles that parents can step into that still make sure that the child gets that learning that they need and they have everything that they need. But it also lets the child learn for themselves. So this type of positive stress can prompt kids to adapt and gain coping skills that they need. It can prepare them to handle life's bigger challenges and opportunities. Life stress events are more difficult, but just like stress, we have positive life events and difficult life events. So many kids and teens face difficult life events or adversity. Some kids get sick or need a hospital stay, and some have parents who split up. Some face the death of loved ones, move to new neighborhoods, or start new schools. Any of these life events can cause stress. When kids face difficult life events, they might feel stress on and off for a few days or weeks as they adjust. As parents, you can provide extra support and stability. Listen and talk with your child, help them feel safe and loved, and if possible, let them know what to expect. So, us as adults, we've been around for a little while. We know that moving to a new school doesn't mean that the whole world stops spinning, and we know that they're going to make friends eventually. But us as human beings, we base our emotions on things that we have learned previously in life. So, if as a kid you have no experience with this, you don't know that it's going to be okay yet, and you have nothing to base that off of, that's where a lot of anxiety comes into play. So, talk over what will happen and what they can do to cope and how you'll help. So, if they don't have that to base their emotions off of, give them something that they can. So, maybe, if you have family nights on Fridays, you might could say, well, I know we're moving, but we're still going to have family nights every Friday. That's not going to change. Or you're still going to go over and see your grandparents on Sundays. Those are things that they can hold on to that are very stable for them, and that can help give them some comfort. So set up simple routines that will help them feel settled once you do get there. Good life events are events that we often think of that, us as adults would perceive as very beneficial. but even those can be stressful. So, a big birthday, the first day of school, graduation, holidays, or travel can prompt kids to feel stress. So, again, this is going into the unknown. They have nothing to base this information off of. So, oftentimes they'll look for parents or other peers, depending on how old they are, and see how they're reacting. So, parents can help give kids and teens, they can help prepare them for what lies ahead. So, again, talk them through the situation, focusing on the positive parts. Give kids a say when it's possible. Listen to what they think and how they feel. If they feel stressed, let them know that it's okay and you can talk about the coping skills that they can use. And let them know that you'll be there for them as much as they need. Chronic stress is when difficult life events lead to stress that lasts more than a few weeks. Chronic stress is hard on kids when they don't have a break from it or when they don't feel like they have the support or the skills that they need to offset that stress. So, having a serious health condition that lasts for a long time, losing a parent or close family member, going through lasting adversity, over time, stress like this can affect kids and it can affect their mental and physical health. So, with this being said, this is where we see kids coming in and saying, I have stomach aches every day. I have headaches. I feel like I can't concentrate. Feel like my head's foggy. Those are some of the lasting physical effects that this chronic stress can cause. So, as parents, you can help the kid feel safe and loved and cared for. So, this is the best way to offset stress. Feeling close to you and knowing that you love and accept them is more important than ever with this. Provide routines like the same bedtime, eating well, being there for them after school. Providing routines lets them get a rhythm and lets the kids know that there are things that they can count on. So, we also want to teach the coping skills. So, kids feel better when they know that there's things that they can do for themselves. So, again, going back to, I know as parents that we want to coddle the kids and say, we can help you through this and we're here, let's talk about it. Sometimes there are times where the kids aren't ready to talk about what's stressing them out, or it could be that they genuinely don't understand what's stressing them out. And so that's where it's really important to teach these coping skills that they can pull in for themselves. So maybe they don't know what it is, but they know the feeling. And so when they learn things like calm breathing and meditation, then they can do those things on their own whenever they start to feel bad. Help them take a break from stress, make time to play, draw, spend time in nature, read a book, play an instrument. And remember, these are kids. You know, I think sometimes there is so much that they deal with in school, with social media, with all of these different things that are bombarding them every day. And I think sometimes they forget that they are kids and that they can do things that kids enjoy. And so taking time to be with family or friends and just to have that time to goof off and smile and laugh, even if it's just telling cheesy jokes, this gives them time to rest and relax. And it tells their brain that, hey, I'm in a situation where I can be okay for a few minutes. So, traumatic stress comes with trauma events that are serious, intense, or sudden. Traumas such as serious accidents or injuries, abuse, or violence can prompt this type of stress. Parents can step in to protect kids when they know they're being mistreated or bullied. But it's not always possible to protect kids from every type of trauma. So, if kids go through traumatic stress, parents can help to get them the care that they need to recover. So, they can give kids extra support and care. So, listen and be there to talk. Reach out to your child's doctor or therapist. So, this is where, like, I would come in. So, parents can take part in therapy and learn how to best help their child, which, congratulations. If you all are watching this video, you are already on that step. Spend positive time together. So encourage kids to do things that they enjoy. These might be things that you can do together or that they can do on their own. Could be music, nature, art, anything that prompts positive emotions within the child. And give kids a chance to use their strengths in everyday life. So, trauma and stress can leave them feeling vulnerable or anxious, and it can kind of hurt their self confidence. So, knowing what they can do and who they are as a person can help give them a feeling that they have something that is all their own, that no one else can take away from them. So, that's an overview of the different things that can kind of play into anxiety or the different environmental and psychological reasons that anxiety can happen. So, what do you look for? Anxiety can present itself in several different ways. So, we have diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder, separation anxiety disorder, social anxiety disorder, panic disorder, selective mutism, and specific phobias. These all fall under the category of anxiety within the DSM. And for those of you who missed the first psychoeducation class over ADHD, the DSM is a universal way that we as clinicians diagnose children. So if you go to Australia or if you go to England, we all use the same book and look for the same criteria when we diagnose kids. So no matter where you go, if I give a kid a diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder, they will be seeing the same criteria that I seen. So, generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD, causes kids to worry almost every day. And they can worry over a lot of things. So, they worry about things that we would expect kids to worry about, like homework, tests, or making mistakes. But they often worry about things that parents might not expect. So, for example, they might worry about recess, lunchtime, birthday parties, playtime with friends, riding the bus. They could also worry about war, weather, or the future. They may worry about loved ones, safety, illness, or getting hurt, especially with the rise of COVID-19 and all of that coming into light. We see a lot of kids who maybe didn't understand why everybody had to wear masks, or they were in a home where, um, like I talked about before, the learned anxiety, which is fully within reason. You know, it was something that I think a lot of us had to deal with anxiety about, but we often don't realize how much kids are listening to that. And so I may have a kid come in and they may tell me, um, Betty Sue from down the street died of COVID, and mommy and daddy had COVID, and now they think mommy and daddy's going to die from COVID, even though that they fully recovered. So having generalized anxiety makes it hard for kids to focus on school because there's almost always worry on their mind. So it makes it hard for kids to relax and have fun. It makes it hard for them to eat well or even fall asleep at night. With this, we often see recurrent nightmares. They may toss and turn. They may miss many days of school because worry makes them feel sick, afraid, or tired. So, some kids with generalized anxiety keep their worries to themselves, and others talk about it with a parent or teacher. They might ask over and over whether something they worry about will happen, but it's usually accompanied by a what if statement, and it makes it hard for them to feel okay no matter what the parent says. So, with separation anxiety, it's normal in babies and kids that are very young. And it's normal for them to feel that anxiety when they first separate from the parent. But as soon as they get used to being with the grandparent, the babysitter, the teacher, or whoever they're being with, they start to feel more at home. But we get separation anxiety when the kids don't outgrow that fear from being apart from the parent. And I want to say this also goes with families who are fostering children. So, children attach to parental figures that kind of love and nurture on them. and they feel very safe with them. That's how they bond with the parent or caregiver. So, even as they grow and get older, kids with separation anxiety feel very anxious about being away from the parent or away from the home. They may miss many days of school and they may feel sad or too sick or upset to go. They may cling to the parent, they may cry or refuse to go to school, sleepovers, playdates, or any other activities without the parent being there. At home, they may have trouble falling asleep or sleeping alone. They may avoid being in a room at home if the parent isn't close by. So, then you have social phobias. So, with the social phobia, kids feel too afraid of what others will think or say. So, they're always afraid they might do or say something embarrassing or something that makes them the center of attention. They don't want others to notice them, so they might avoid raising their hand in class. Um, if they get called on in class, they may freeze or panic and can't answer the question. With social phobia, a class presentation or a group activity with classmates would cause extreme fear. We see this more as like, okay, so an example would be if a kid, for instance, had a social phobia, we could probably see them. Okay, so if the teacher assigned everyone to read a paragraph, like we used to do in school, they would probably zone out the kids who are currently reading, and they might count down the paragraphs to see which one they are supposed to read. And they would practice reading that to themselves. And then so they're ignoring everything else, but they're focused on just what they're supposed to be doing so that they don't mess up that paragraph. So, a social phobia can cause kids and teens to avoid school or friends. They may feel sick or tired before going to school. They may complain of other body sensations that go with anxiety too. So, for example, they may feel their heart racing or feel short of breath. They may feel jumpy, like they can't sit still, or they may feel their face get hot and they may feel shaky or lightheaded. So, a panic disorder, these are sudden anxiety attacks that can cause overwhelming physical symptoms. These can be things such as shaky or jittery, trembling, a racing heart, shortness of breath, and panic attacks can happen anytime, and they're more common in teens than younger kids. Selective mutism is an extreme form of social phobia, and this can cause kids to be so afraid that they don't talk. So, kids and teens who have it can talk, and they do at home or when they're around people who they're very close to, but they refuse to talk at all at school or with friends or in places where they have or they feel that they'll encounter this fear. Specific phobias, it's normal for young kids to feel scared of the dark, monsters, big animals, or loud noises. Most of the time, when kids feel afraid, adults can help calm them down. But with a phobia, it's more intense and it's longer lasting. With a phobia, the child dreads the thing that they fear and they actively try to avoid it. Um, if they feel like they're near the fear, they may become terrified and it may be very hard to calm them back down. So, with a specific phobia, kids may have an extreme fear of things like animals, spiders, needles or shots, blood, throwing up, thunderstorms, people in costume, or the dark. Phobias can cause kids to avoid going places where they think they might see the thing they fear. So, for example, a kid with a phobia of dogs may not go to a friend's house or to a park or to a party because the dogs might be there. And in therapy, we oftentimes use something called exposure therapy. And while exposure therapy is sometimes a good option for dealing with specific phobias, we never want to push them past where they are willing and comfortable. So if I had a person who was terrified of bridges, you know, we may do exposure therapy where we may walk on a bridge, that has appropriate walkways and things like that. But, if that person tells me, I'm starting to feel really bad, I don't feel comfortable doing this, then we back off because we don't want to push someone and make a phobia worse. So, what are the signs of anxiety? So, a parent or teacher may see signs that a child is anxious. So, the child might cling, they might miss school, they might cry, they might act scared or upset or refuse to talk or do things. So, kids with anxiety also feel symptoms that others can't see. It can make them afraid, worried, nervous, um, and it can affect their body. They might feel shaky, jittery, short of breath. They may feel butterflies in their stomach. They may have clammy hands, a dry mouth, or a racing heart. These symptoms of anxiety are the results of fight, flight, or freeze. So, this is the body's normal response to danger, and it triggers the release of natural chemicals in the body. These chemicals prepare us to deal with real danger in life. They affect the heart rate, breathing, muscles, nerves, digestion, and this response is meant to protect us from the danger. But with anxiety disorders, the fight, flight, or freeze response is overactive. So it happens when there's no real danger. So when I talk about anxiety to kids, I give them the example, okay, if Miss Sierra was walking in the woods and she stumbled across a bear, well, then her heart's going to pump a lot of blood and her body is going to get really shaky because I'm getting ready to run, and I might start breathing faster because my heart rate's beating faster because I'm getting ready to protect myself from that bear. And then we talk about, well, what happens if I do that when I walk into a new classroom? You know, is there any danger there? You know, no one's going to throw anything at me. No one's going to try to hurt me. So these are things that we can talk about with kids that kind of help them see that even though they may feel like there's perceived danger, we can always try to rationalize through the problems. So, who can treat and diagnose anxiety? Anxiety can be treated and diagnosed by a trained therapist. They talk with you and your child, ask questions, and listen carefully. They'll ask how and when the child's anxiety or fears happen most, and that helps them to diagnose the specific anxiety disorder that the child has. A child or teen with symptoms of anxiety should also have regular health checkups, and this makes sure that there's no other health problems that are causing the symptoms. So, with anxiety, it can also mimic hormone imbalances. So, things like hypothyroidism, um, any type of hormone can kind of throw that out of whack and cause symptoms that look like anxiety. So, oftentimes the therapist may have them do a blood work panel just to double check these things. Um, when a therapist is looking at the different types of anxiety, they may use tools like the scared, or um, they may use different clinical interventions to help them pinpoint exactly where the fear is coming from. So, medication and anxiety. In the pamphlet that I handed out, there is a list of all the medications that are used to treat anxiety. So, like I talked to in the first one of these psychoeducation classes, I always want to encourage parents to be an advocate for their child, because even though I spend time with your kids, they may see a psychiatrist who, um, actively does clinical information. You know your child best. And what that means is we can make recommendations, but you know what's going to work best for your child. And so here is a list of, this is a drug lookup, and you can type in any disorder, and it will bring up a drug name, a generic name, what type of formulation they're going to get it. So is it a pill? Is it capsules? And then it gives the condition and the drug type. So this is a really good tool to try to inform yourself about the different medications. So let's see. Zoloft is one that we prescribe a lot. And so when you click on it, it brings you to general information. So it treats anxiety and depression. It's a oral solution. Initial dose in 6 to 12-year-olds, it's about 25. 13 to 17, it's about 50. Dosing frequency is daily. Monitoring, so it gives a list of things to kind of look out for. And then it also gives safety information. So this is very good information for you as a parent to have when you're talking about anxiety and looking at whether you want to incorporate medication into your treatment. So it is important with medication to make sure that if it is going to be given, that it's giving at the correct times and consistently. So school nurses can give out medication during the school day to make sure that the children can take it during times that they are in school. Also, if your child has started medication, it should be monitored by a healthcare professional, and only the healthcare professional should take it off the children off medication. So, I'll tell myself again here, even if I go to the doctor and I say I have strep and I get an antibiotic, it's very hard sometimes to remember to take the full dosage that you're prescribed without just saying, well, I feel better. Okay, I'm done with this. But when we give medication, we want to do our best to make sure that if we do decide to quit, talk to your healthcare professionals and they can slowly wean the children off of the medicines. And that way we can do it in a very healthy way. You can choose to stop medication, but there's a correct way to do so that the child is gradually lowered on dosage until they're no longer taking it. Most often, anxiety disorders are treated with cognitive behavioral therapy, which is what I do, and we call this CBT therapy. So it's a type of talk therapy that helps families, kids, and teens learn ways to manage their fear, worry, and anxiety. So CBT teaches kids that what they think and do affects how they feel. So in CBT, kids learn that when they avoid what they fear, the fear stays strong. And they learn that when they face the fear gets weaker and eventually it goes away. So with CBT, parents learn how to best respond when a child is anxious, and they learn how to help kids face the fears in a very healthy way. Kids learn coping skills so that they can face the fear and they can worry less on their own. The therapist helps the kid practice, they give them support, we praise them as they try. Over time, kids learn to face their fears and they eventually do feel better. They learn to get used to situations that they're afraid of and they feel proud of what they've learned. I always want to make sure that I tell kids that sometimes they get the response when they start feeling better. They're like, oh, well, you fixed it. Well, I didn't do anything. I give you tools and you fixed it. So without so many worries, they can focus on things like school, activities, and just having fun. And sometimes medications are also used to help treat that anxiety. So if, in my personal preference, if I see a kid who is really struggling academically, they just are having such a hard time coming to school, they're having these prolonged health problems, then that's when I would look into medication, because sometimes it takes that medication to allow them to feel relaxed enough to learn these coping skills. So, as a parent, how can you help your child? So, if your child has an anxiety disorder, here are some things that you can do. You can find a trained therapist and take your child to all the therapy appointments. I will say Cumberland River does have a trauma therapist, and no two clinicians practice the same way. So your child may be more comfortable with a clinician who does more yoga interventions and teaches them that way. Or they may be better with someone who just wants to talk it out with them. So talk to your child and find out what they're thinking about each session. Talk often with the therapist and ask how you can best help your child. Help your child face your fears. Ask the therapist how you can practice this at home, and praise your child for their efforts to cope with fears and worries. Even as adults, facing our fears is something that's very difficult to do. And so, if we ask a kid to do this, we would want praise for doing it. So, we want to make sure that we're giving it to them. Help kids talk about their feelings, listen and let them understand. Know that you understand, love, and accept them. A caring relationship with you always helps your child build inner strengths. So, encourage your child to take small steps forward and don't let your child give up or avoid what they're afraid of. So, with any type of therapy, progress is going to be gradual. And like I talked about with exposure therapy, we never want to push them too far, but we also don't want to let them give up. We want to encourage them to go at a pace that's comfortable for them. And if we feel like we're hitting a roadblock and we're not getting any farther, then we sit them down and we talk to them. We say, hey, you know, we see that our progress has stopped. What can we do to make you feel better to take another step? And eventually, all those steps add up to they're no longer having this fear. So be patient. It takes a while for therapy to work for kids and for them to feel better. So you can also spend time with them. Do this every day, even if it's just for a few minutes with any diagnosis. Do things together that you both enjoy, like go for a walk, cook, eat, play, or just hang out. Ask what's on their mind. Help kids label what they think and feel. Sometimes kids don't exactly know what's causing their stress, or they may not know that it's even stress. So, there's a movie called Home, and there's a little alien, and he doesn't understand really how our emotions work. And the girl is very upset, and he's like, "Oh, you're sad, but you're mad, so you're sad mad." And that's a very good explanation of how often kids describe things, is that they're sad mad. Um, Listen and be patient with them. Um, just because we have the knowledge and experience to know that things are going to be okay doesn't mean that they do. And we have to understand that up until now, whatever they're facing is the hardest thing that they've faced in life. And we need to validate them. So let kids know that you understand and say it's okay to feel how they feel. We, as adults, do not have to understand everything that goes through kids' minds. I don't think I would want to understand everything that goes through kids' minds. But that is who that child is as a person. And as long as they're not hurting themselves or someone else, and it's their own way of reasoning through things, it's okay for them to feel that way. We want to help kids think of how to handle things. So, like I said, we're not stepping in and fixing everything for them. We can give them ideas. We can kind of hint toward the answers and let them get there on their own. So don't jump in to solve things for them. Instead, invite kids to think of what they can do. Support their good ideas and talk through together if they have any bad ideas. Remind them of times they tried something new and it went well. So help them practice. So when possible, help the kids break a new thing into small steps. Let them practice one step at a time, and as they build toward their goal, celebrate each success. So, if I played softball and I decided I was going to be the pitcher, I cannot throw to save my life. It does not go where I want it to go. But that doesn't mean that it's something that I couldn't do. It means that I would have to practice, and maybe that means going through each motion slowly, or maybe it means watching videos and helping see what I'm doing wrong. But these are things that can help break big goals into smaller ones. And we always want to encourage the child. So even if they are struggling with it still, or even if it's been a very, very small step, encouragement and praising your child's effort and progress helps them know that you're proud of them, and it helps them to relax so that the stress and worry doesn't build up. Help them expect good things. A lot of times we don't always realize how negative about things we can be. I get a lot of kids that say, I can't do something. And I say the very old saying, well, can't never could do nothing. And yes, they look at me like I have three heads, but then I explain, if you don't try, then you won't do it. So we can also help soothe and comfort them. There's going to be times in life where even though we've taken all the right steps and we put in all the right practice and we've, taken little steps to face our fears, there's always going to be setbacks. And we want to provide comfort and understanding and remind them that you're there to help them through things that happen. And we want to teach them to use things like calm breathing and to relax their mind and body. And we want to remind them that there's somewhere safe where we're going to do our best not to let anything bad happen. So, some key helpful habits is when we're doing CBT therapy, we call it our coping skills toolbox. And so, some of the skills that we can use for anxiety is deep breathing. So, this is where they may inhale through the nose for 5 counts and then exhale through the mouth for 5 counts. And we may repeat this 4 or 5 times. We may do things like progressive muscle relaxation, where we start from the top of the body and work our way down to our toes, focusing on different muscle groups. And we tense the muscles and then we relax them. And by the end of it, we have relaxed our whole body. We can also help kids to identify where they're holding their tension. So different places that they're holding tension can often tell us what kind of stress is going on. So if they're holding their tension in their foreheads, are they squinting at their work? Are they having trouble concentrating? Is it in their shoulders? Are they kind of trying to fold into themselves to make themselves smaller? Is it in their hands? Are they holding on to a little bit of anger? Are they clenching their fists? So the last thing is the reference links. The packets that I passed out has detailed information about how to do each of these coping skills. And then with the anxiety references, this is more information than even what I could give you to start looking and talking about the different types of anxiety for your kids. So I thank you all for listening to this video, and I thank those who did come in person and have gotten this information, and I'm so glad that you all are participating in this. Like I said, this is a multi-model type of therapy where we're involving the parents, teachers, community, and like I said, I want you all to be the best advocates that you can for your children. So if you have any questions or comments or anything that I can help you answer, feel free to contact me. All right. Thank you.